Welcome to the Plant-Free MD podcast with Dr. Anthony Chafee, where we discuss diet and nutrition and how this affects health and chronic disease, and show you how you can use this to optimize your health and happiness, both mentally and physically. All right, hello everyone. It's Dr. Anthony Chafee here with another episode of the Plant-Free MD podcast. And today I have a very special guest, Claire, who is host of Beyond the Scale True Healing podcast and was nice enough to have me on her podcast previously. And I'm very happy to have her as a guest on mine. Claire, thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
So grateful.
You're very welcome. So, when we were talking last time, you were telling me quite a interesting story about how you came around to, changing the way you're eating and with your health. Can you give us a bit of a background on yourself and what you do and a bit of your story?
Okay. So, first I'm French, so sorry for my English. I grew up in south of France. I had a very Mediterranean diet, but from my childhood, I've been struggling with eating disorder. When I was a teenager, I had a big trauma and I fall deeply into anorexia nervosa. And from my teenagehood up to a couple of years ago, I was really sick with anorexia nervosa. I can say that I've been a vegan for 10 years, and veganism was a part of my illness. It was really helpful for me to eat only plants and to avoid to eat. And it was helping me to restrict more and more and more. So I was really, really sick, and I dropped my BMI down to 9. At this time, I was in a wheelchair. I lost the ability to see. I became blind for a month. I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. And in 2017, I got a flu and my body was not able to react. So I was not able to have fever. My body temperature was really low and it became a pneumonia and I died for a couple of minutes.
Wow.
And from this point, I've been trying to heal and I was not able to do it up to the time I switched to Carnivore.
Wow. I'm so sorry to hear that. I couldn't even imagine how that must have been to go through. I'm very glad that you are okay though. So you were, what made you go vegan in the first place? What were your thoughts behind that?
Okay. It's when I wanted to get a kid, of course, I was unnourished already. At this time, I was an engineer and I was in the UAE. And when you're in the UAE, you can pay to have an IVF, even if you're not healthy, which is not the case in France. In France, you have to be healthy to go through IVF. Mm-hmm. But I was not healthy, so I couldn't have kids, and I paid, and I went through IVF, and I got my son. My pregnancy was a nightmare because I was already underweight. Mm-hmm. But anyway, my son came a little bit too early, and I started breastfeeding him. And when I started breastfeeding him, he had some digestive issues. And the pediatrician over there said to me that it was maybe because he was allergic to dairy and me eating dairy and the dairy were going through my milk and make him sick. So I stopped having dairy at this time. And then reading on the internet about dairy allergies and stuff like this, I went through the vegan community, and you have to keep in mind that I was unnourished. So my brain was already messed up. And I just followed into veganism at this time. They were saying that dairy was bad for me and my son. And I had the proof that my son was sick because of dairy. And so they say to me, but it's the same as the meat and everything. And I stepped to veganism this way. And then because I was always restricting when I wanted to go out, it was the perfect excuse for me, I cannot eat with you because your food is not vegan. And so, the veganism and the anorexia was working together to make me sicker and sicker and sicker. And then there we go.
Yeah, that's funny too. It's kind of rich to say that the kid has a dairy allergy when he's drinking breast milk. Like maybe you could say something's in the milk or through the processor or something because it's, cow's milk or whatever. Maybe some of the casein proteins are sort of, changing things up. Maybe you could argue that, but just saying that there's just a dairy allergy in general is a bit rich when the kid is subsisting on dairy. That's a bit funny. Hey guys, just want to take a second to thank our sponsor at Carnivore Bar. I don't promote many products because honestly, all you need to be healthy is to just eat meat. For those times that you're out hiking, road tripping, or stuck at work and you want a nutritious snack that is just meat, fat, and salt if you want it, the Carnivore Bar is a great option. So I like this product not because it's just pure meat, but also because I want the carnivore market to thrive as well. And the more we support meat-only products, the more meat-only products there will be available in the mainstream. So if this sounds like something you'd like to get behind, check it out using my discount code Anthony to get 10% off, which also applies to subscriptions, giving you 25% off total. All right. Thanks, guys. And so you were in that for 10 years. You ended up getting to the point, like I guess you were sort of avoiding eating as well due to the anorexia as well. But then when you did eat, it was vegetables. Is that right?
It was vegetables, most of the time, like steamed vegetables. Mm-hmm. I can say that I was sugar addict, like sweet addict. But I was afraid of calories. So I was eating uncalories, sweet stuff. So I was drinking up to 6-8 liters of Diet Coke a day. I was eating sugar-free gums as crazy, sometimes 60 a day. Yeesh. This is totally crazy, This is totally crazy. And my main dish were vegetables with even sometimes stevia on it.
Right. Ugh. Yeah. I guess it was like just anything to cut the taste of vegetables.
Yeah. And I was doing a lot of spices as well, to try to have some taste because vegetables are not tasty by themselves. And I was eating like lentils or this kind of crappy food because they say that you need protein. Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah. You don't need those proteins. There's better ones. Well, that's, and then so after sort of 10 years or so, I mean, you were in a wheelchair. How long were you in a wheelchair?
I had different periods, but at the end, it ended like a year. Okay. I was not really able to use my legs, so I couldn't walk more than 3 meters.
Yeah.
My legs were not dead, but 3 meters was exhausted. So it lasts for almost a year.
Okay.
Just to sit in my car, I was sitting in the car and then carrying my legs with my arm to put it in the car because I didn't have any muscle. I lost all my muscles.
Yeah. And then so basically it was just because you were so weak, you weren't able to walk more than a few meters. Is that right? Yeah. So we did some sort of, yeah. And then when you went carnivore, like how did you get out of that cycle of anorexia and veganism?
Okay. I went out of veganism against my desire because I had to be tube fed at one point because I was almost dying. So they needed to put nourishment in my body. So I went out of veganism because you have some milk protein inside the solution of tube feeding. So I was tube fed in 2015 for a couple of months, then in 2016 again, and a little bit in 2017. But I was feeling like crap, really having this food. It was just not the good one, you don't feel good when you're refed by these solutions. And so all this time, all the food that I was putting in my mouth was vegan, and the rest was from the feeding solutions, and it was really bad. And then I was thinking that being a vegan and controlling my food, my intakes and everything, I was controlling my life. And I was thinking that I was controlling the time I will die. And in 2017, when I died a couple of minutes, I didn't want it to die at this time. And I realized that I was not controlling anything. I lost the control a long time ago, and I didn't knew it. So at this point, in the hospital, they asked me to restart eating meat. And I restarted a little bit, lean meat, lean fish, very a little, like 100 grams of chicken breasts once in a while and stuff like this. And the meat was tasting good, but my sick brain was still sick and I couldn't stick to it, And after a year, gaining some pound, losing some pound, gaining some pound, I was able to gain enough weight to be out of danger, not to be dying anymore, but not to be healing. And I stayed in this state for years, like just eating just enough protein to maintain, to be surviving and not to be living. And in April 2021, I started looking at something to help my mental health. And I say I should go to find out about a diet if it's possible. And I found a lot about mental health and ketogenic diets. I read a lot of articles about this and I found this really interesting. But at the same point, all my life was about counting calories and I didn't want to switch to count macros. So I was very interested on what was happening with ketogenic, but it was not for me. It was not it was not for me. And I found out about carnivore and I said, okay, I will give a try to carnivore. And I started doing it, but the wrong way. Yeah. For a couple of months, I tried to eat just meat and dairy, but low fat. Because I was afraid of the calories still at this point, and I was eating lots of meat and zero fat yogurt and stuff like this, which is not carnivore at all. But anyway, I was not feeling good. And in July, I went to the beach with my son and my nieces, and they were enjoying the beach, swimming, and I was not able to go into the water because I was freezing cold. I was so underweight and not having enough energy. I was really cold, and I was like, come on, I need to do something for me. I need to stop surviving, and I need to start living my life. And I got personal coaching in Rivera community.
Oh, good.
And the girl, I took a coach with eating disorder background, and she told me, okay, if tomorrow you have a flu and you go to the doctor and the doctor give you the pill to heal tomorrow, you take the pill or you take half and you heal in a week, or you take a quarter of the pill and you heal in a month. And I say, of course, I take the full pill. I want to heal as fast as possible. So she said to me, okay, so heal as fast as possible. Just your pill is the carnivore food, is the meat and the fat, and eat as crazy. It's your medicine. Take it like this. From this day, I started eating high-fat carnivore. And I couldn't go back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did that make you feel?
Amazing. The food has always been a struggle for me. And each time I've been refed by something carby, I was suffering from edema and stuff like this. And when I started eating high-fat carnivore, I couldn't stop eating the fat. I couldn't stop eating the meat. And the food, for the first time of my life, was like my body was reacting and saying, just give me more and more and more and more. And you have your anorexic mind where you're saying you're gaining weight, you're afraid, you stop eating the fat. And you have your body that is saying, don't stop eating the fat. Keep eating the fat, keep eating the meat. And from the day I started, I was not able to restrict anymore. I'm not able to restrict at all. When I'm hungry, I'm eating.
Good. Yeah. And so obviously you sort of turned that around and put on weight and regained health. How long have you been doing carnivore?
1 year and a half.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I gained weight really fast at the beginning. very, very fast. Within 3 months, I gained more than 20 pounds. And for an anorexic girl, it's really scary, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then my body was tall at this weight. And now I'm still gaining, but slowly. But I'm still gaining.
Yeah. Good. And then are you exercising as well, or just focusing on the diet?
I'm doing both.
Yeah.
So I'm having lots of protein, lots of fat, and I'm doing resistance training at least 5 times a week.
Yeah, which is a big difference from being in a wheelchair and not able to walk. Yeah.
At the beginning, when I started moving around again, I was doing exercises with a physiotherapist 3 times a week. And now I don't need the physiotherapist. I can do it on my own. I'm going to the gym, or I'm practicing at home when I don't have time. I always want to be active, even if it's not too much. Sometimes, I'm working 10 hours at the office and you cannot do a lot of exercise. But I have a kettlebell at home and I can do like 50 squats with a kettlebell when I go back home. Or there is always a way to be able to do some movements, always. And I think it helped me as well with my mental health, because I was like, okay, you're gaining weight. I'm gaining fat, of course, because I needed to gain fat, but I'm gaining muscles as well. I'm gaining bone density as well. And so, it's the full package,
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Is that what made you want to start the podcast, to sort of get your story out there and get this message out to other people?
I really wanted to spread the word that we can heal from eating disorder, because all the time my medical team has always told me that you will have a relapse, and it will never be like a steady state. And I really deeply believe that I won't relapse, never, And I really think that we can heal. And I also really think that the way we are dealing with eating disorder is the wrong way. And this is why there are so many relapses. There are, even my medical team now, it is supporting me. But when I started doing the carnivore, they were saying like, no, you should not avoid kind of food. You've been avoiding a part of the foods before, and now you should be able to eat everything. But I am not able to eat everything. I'm not. And going back to carbs, I will go back to restriction straight away. I know it.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. I'm sure they didn't have that same thing to say when you were vegan. They probably didn't say that to you. It's like, oh, you have to, stop being, veganism is too restrictive. Like that. At least thankfully someone said you should start eating some meat. So at least there was a bit of a bright spot there. But, generally people give people a harder time for doing a carnivore diet than they would for, like, say, a vegan diet.
Yeah. But, when you're not eating enough protein and you're undernourished, then you have the refeeding symptom. And the only way not to have it is to get enough protein on your diet. So in that part of their mind, the doctors know about it. They know about this. And after the Second World War, when they opened the camps and they refeed all these guys with carbohydrates, they died. And it was just because they gave too many potatoes and bread and stuff like this. If they have given the meat, they would not have died. And it was the same with me. I was in the same state, like nourished like this. And I almost died with the refeeding symptom giving me carbs. And when, they were so increasing my intake really slowly to avoid to have all these problems, and saying that you cannot add more than 100 calories a day for your body not to react, blah, blah, blah. When I switched to carnivore, I went from 1,000 calories a day to 8,000 calories a day. And my body reacted like perfectly. I didn't put any carbs. I didn't have any electrolyte imbalance. I was just perfectly fine. And I had 7,000 calories in a day.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it definitely sounds like you needed it. And yeah.
When I started eating carnivore, I was eating like constantly. I couldn't be satiated. I was waking up in the middle of the night, going to my fridge and eating butter, It was just crazy because I really, really need this.
Yeah. Yeah. And your body is just screaming to you like, you have to eat this stuff. Yeah. Well, it was very good that you were able to do that. Obviously that's difficult coming from years of an eating disorder, that, you would allow yourself to get up in the middle of the night and eat butter as well. Yeah. How did you deal with that sort of mental hurdle of being able to let yourself do that?
When I started Carnivore, I was on anxiety pill, antidepressant, and sleeping pills. But eating the normal food, after a couple of weeks, I was able to go out of all medication.
Nice.
Of course, I want to say, with the support of my therapist, I didn't do it on my own. I was really followed with my psychiatrist. And I'm still coming 1.5 years after, I'm still visiting her sometimes. So, but I was like, my brain was asking me, and the sickness was asking me, okay, stop eating the fat. You're scared about it and you're gaining too fast. And each time I was feeling this anxiety, I went to the fridge, I bite on butter and beating on the fat. I feel relaxed and it was helping me. So I was writing down my feelings in a book. I was writing everything. Every single day I was writing in a book, saying how scared I was. And at the same time, I was saying, I cannot restrict. I need this. And the fat helped me with the anxiety like crazy.
Wow. Yeah, there's Professor Chris Palmer from Harvard just came out with a book, Brain Energy. And
I really need to read this book.
It's a very good book. And he's a very interesting guy. And I spoke with him on my podcast a bit ago, and we'll be putting it up in January. And he was, he wrote this entire book showing that a lot of these mental disorders, they all tie into metabolic issues at the level of the mitochondria, and they're not working right. So your brain's not working right, your body's not working right, and it can cause serious harm. And mental these sort of issues with eating disorders that can all tie in very well with those sort of, especially the anxiety and depression and things like that tie up most people that have eating disorders as well. That usually comes part and parcel with that. And seeing that even just going on a ketogenic diet and allowing your mitochondria to heal and recycle themselves and reproduce more mitochondria, so you have more mitochondria and they work better. That allows different psychiatric issues, even schizophrenia, to settle down, but also, that's something that can help in eating disorders as well. And so that sounds like that sort of is what you experienced it when your body and your metabolism was getting more under control, that your anxiety and your issues surrounding that way of eating settled down as well, and you were able to just sort of function normally.
And it was exactly the opposite as being vegan, because being vegan, I was already sick, I was already anorexic, but being vegan put me even deeper into anorexia, because I was just nourishing my brain more and more and more and more, and increasing this anxiety, and it was like really going together for me to die, and starting Carnivore. And then it's the opposite that's happening. The more you're healing, the less anxiety you got, and the more fat you're getting and less anxiety you've got. And it was like one slope like this and one slope like this. It's like amazing.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And then, have you worked with other people with eating disorders to try and help them get through what you went through?
Yeah, I'm working with people with anorexia nervosa. I'm working as well with people with binge eating disorder and bulimia. And it's funny because there are people underweight, as I really was, and there are people overweight. And at the end, we all have the same issues, when you're on the side or the other, you have joint pain, you have body dysmorphia and stuff like this. And it's on the 2 ranges. And it's really, really good to work with them and to help them to strive. And yeah, I've done the Rivero course to become a coach a year ago. As soon as I got 6 months into Carnivore, because you need to wait 6 months to be able to get this. And so, I got some additional knowledge, but from the beginning, I never stopped reading medical articles and stuff like this. I love learning, and I cannot just stick to some basic knowledge. I need to read more and more and more. And yeah, I love this. And I want to know how all this is possible, what's happening into the cells. And I really want to understand what happened to me, because it's true. Carnivore heals.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And, it's a very scary situation. I've seen people in your position when you came into hospital and had to, they get court orders to put feeding tubes into people. I've seen that once. And that was a very, very tough thing to see. This poor girl was very, very sick and was, she was, she would allow us to do what we needed to do. But you could tell that she was just you could just see it in her eyes. Like, the second I get out of here, this all stops. And unfortunately she didn't come around, and she actually did die, unfortunately. So this is something very, very serious that I don't think that people understand just how serious it is. And especially getting to that point that you had to be hospitalized a few times and were so weak that you couldn't walk.
People don't realize that anorexia in percentage kills more than cancer.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't
the percentage of death is bigger in anorexia than cancer.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a very, very big stuff. And in France, we are not really well equipped to treat eating disorder. And I was going to a clinic, which was not a hospital specialized in eating disorder. Mm-hmm. And after a couple of days, they put me out of the clinic saying, okay, you're going to die and we don't have your number on the clinic. So you go back home and die at home. And they put me out. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Because they didn't have all the ability to make my heart restart if it was stopping. So they were preparing just to push me back home. This is totally crazy,
That's insane.
And by the way, when you're unnourished, your heart is not working at all. I was down 40 beats per minute maximum.
Wow.
And yeah, I didn't have any potassium in my body. So it was just, I was dying, totally dying.
Yeah. And you said your heart actually stopped for a few minutes. Is that right?
A few minutes when I got the pneumonia, yes.
Wow.
And
so it had to resuscitate you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I stayed 9 days in intensive care after this. And much longer at the hospital.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm glad they actually were that you were in
this time I lost all my hair. You have to imagine the state of my body. I was no muscles in the wheelchair, no hair, nothing.
Yeah,
it was really, really scary.
Yeah, that is very scary. Well, I'm very, very glad that you got out of it. And I'm doubly glad that you're helping other people get through it as well. Because that's a huge service that these people really need. And obviously the traditional medical system is failing people in that they just don't know how to treat it. They don't really know what's going on, and they don't know how to address it properly. And so we're not getting good solutions. Not that I treat that. I can't knock the people that are dealing with this. They're doing the best that they can. They're just working with, a bad tool set, unfortunately, and it doesn't seem to be doing a good job.
Yeah. And what I love now is that my medical team is really interesting on Carnivore, because they were not thinking about this being possible, And so now I'm having all the blood tests, blood work done really regularly to see how everything is improving. And now when you look at my blood work, it's just like the perfect one, and they cannot even imagine how it is. I didn't have any cholesterol, of course, before. Now I have cholesterol, but the good one. And they were thinking that you cannot get good cholesterol with only the meat. And you can eat tons of yolks and very fatty meat and got lots of HDL. They are not really worried about my LDL being high now. They don't really care. They are amazed about how my liver handled all this, I was not eating any fat. I didn't eat any fat for 3 decades.
Jesus.
And I went from this point to eat 6 sticks of butter in a day. My liver needed a month to regulate itself. Only 1 month.
Yeah.
So it's just like, come on, it's just impossible. But all my numbers are amazingly good.
That's good. And so now they're interested in it.
They're interested in it. Yeah. Okay. And they are still advising people no more than 2 eggs a day because of the bad cholesterol. And then when they are seeing my numbers and they say, okay, how many eggs can you eat? And okay, currently I'm not eating eggs a lot, but in some point in my journey, I was eating 24 yolks a day.
Nice.
And and the numbers went so nice,
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too. Like, I think that, people ask about my cholesterol numbers and my different blood numbers. I guarantee you my cholesterol numbers are better than most people. I think my HDL to triglycerides ratio is 3-to-1 or something like that. And so very high HDL, very low triglycerides. And my HDL is, it's at the upper limit of what they call normal, but, they've been wrong on that for decades now. So I don't really trust that that's an accurate scale. And also it's just not. LDL is very good for you. And so, if you're not eating carbohydrates and sugar and alcohol and smoking, it's not an issue. It's actually quite good for you.
Yeah. And when I was restricting a lot and unnourished, my liver was not working anymore because as well of all this sweetener stuff and everything that I was eating, which was really crappy. And when you're unnourished, your liver become as sick as an alcoholic liver. So my gammas were up to more than 4,000,
Whoa.
It was like my liver was falling apart totally. And now eating all this fat, there are 20, last blood test, it was 23.
Yeah.
So they are like, okay, this is not normal. You're eating so much fat and your liver is handling everything and you don't have fatty liver.
Yeah. That is the thing. They say, I say this a lot, but I think it's very good, and it's something people should always keep in their mind. The quote from the physicist Richard Feynman said, "It doesn't matter how brilliant your theory is, and it doesn't matter how smart you are. If it doesn't agree with experiment, it's wrong." And so, you have this experiment, and you're saying that if you eat a lot of fatty meat, you're going to get fatty liver disease. Well, you already had fatty liver disease, and this reversed the fatty liver disease. So they're wrong. And well, no, it must have been. You can make all the excuses you want, but you're wrong. And that's what we're seeing. We're not seeing people going on carnivore getting fatty liver disease. We're seeing it reverse. And when you understand the mechanisms and you understand the physiological, biological mechanisms of fatty liver, and that it's actually precipitated by carbohydrates and specifically fructose and also alcohol, that just eating fat, you eat fat, then there's fat goes here. I mean, it's quite a sophomoric view on things. There's fat and cholesterol in these plaques in the arteries. Therefore, it's because you eat fat and the cholesterol, and same with your liver. And it's just nonsense. And, we didn't see that. We saw it in alcoholics. Alcoholics had fatty liver disease, and there wasn't a thing called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease until much more recently, when kids in the 90s were all of a sudden, getting type 2 diabetes, which was then called adult onset diabetes, and they were getting fatty liver disease, which was only alcoholics would get it. I remember actually seeing this in news broadcasts. People were just shocked and like, how is this kid getting adult onset diabetes? He's not an adult. He's 10 years old and he's got fatty liver disease, but he's never had alcohol. Only alcoholics get fatty liver disease. So instead of thinking to themselves, going, okay, what just happened? What have we done? What have we changed? What's going on here? They just said, you know what, it's probably just been happening all the time and we just haven't noticed it. I was like, why would you just assume that? It's insane to me. So they, instead of actually thinking and using their brain for literally 1 second and trying to see, okay, what changed? It was massive overhaul in our dietary changes. We reduced fat and cholesterol and red meat and eggs, significantly increased fruits, vegetables, but in particular carbohydrates and sugar quite substantially. And seed oils as well, more than tripled our intake of high fructose corn syrup as well as seed oils since 1970 to 2014 was when the USDA numbers came out on that, and reduced red meat by over 33%. And yet all these problems were happening, and so they just renamed it type 2 diabetes as opposed to adult onset. And non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. It just happens to some people, and there's just not alcohol involved. Why don't you think about it for a second and see why is that? And again, it just got blamed on fat. Well, it's because they're just eating too much fat. Oh gosh, these Americans, they just eat way too much fat. They were eating way less fat at that time, and all these problems were getting worse. So it's I really wish that people would start thinking about that and paying attention. There are people. I mean, obviously, you're here, I'm here, we're talking about this. And there are other people, in the public, as well as doctors, who are starting to wake up and say like, that doesn't make sense. Like this is what we're taught, but that's not what I'm seeing. And so, hopefully this just continues to get out there.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that, the medical stuff will start really recognizing that it's working. Mm-hmm. And I'm doing something that I cannot wait for the results. But last year in April, my endocrinologist asked me to do a body scan to measure my bone density, because after 30 years of anorexia, I damaged my bone density a lot, and I was in osteopenia. And she's now asking me to make another one in next April after a year to see how my osteopenia changed. And I say to her that you will see, I will reverse it. And she said to me, it's impossible to reverse it. I just want to see if you can stabilize it. Yeah. And I'm really sure I reversed it. And I'm really sure I will show her, like on the paper, you see, you can reverse osteopenia. I'm really sure I can do it.
Well, I believe in you as well. And I think that that's absolutely possible also, especially with resistance training on top of all of this. I'm
trying to have like very high collagen food. Mm-hmm. I'm eating bone marrows and stuff like this as fat. That it is my favorite, and I think it's because my body is requiring it. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing everything I can, eating a lot of animal food, animal fat, and I'm sure that with the resistance training 5 times a week in parallel, I will do it. Yeah. Yeah,
definitely.
I'm feeling my body so well, so more nourished. And, it has been a point where I was that nourished that when I was hurting myself, my bones were just like curving. It was almost possible for the people to push on my bones and they were not hard anymore. And now I can tell you, if I hurt myself, I'm bleeding and my bones are not moving, So I'm seeing the difference. So I will show her how it is. And having the numbers down, she won't be able to say, okay, this is not possible. This is not happening.
That's it. Yeah. Or unless she's, goes into denial. But yeah.
No, because she's really interested on it.
Okay, good.
And she's starting thinking about
Mm-hmm.
trying with other patients. So
That's
this is
very good.
amazing.
Yeah, that's very, very good. And that's huge. I mean, she starts, doing this with other people and getting them better like that. I mean, that could really, really, really help a lot of people. So, I mean, that right there is a huge contribution that you've made just by, changing some minds in your own personal sphere. It's like, how Jordan Peterson says, how do I change the world? How do I, help benefit things? How do I do these big things? And he says, you start by cleaning your room. You make sure that your house is clean, that your life is in order, and that will have knock-on effects to people around you. You'll be able to take care of your life. You'll be able to, just do things that make your life better, and that will affect other people, and that will have knock-on effects. And that's exactly what you've done. You've healed yourself. You've gotten a lot better, and that's made people realize that, hey, this is something that people can do, and maybe we'll try this with other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And so how was, are you and your son eating this way now?
So I'm eating full carnivore and nothing
Mm-hmm.
out of the carnivore range. Nothing. Zero cheat day, zero sweetener, zero anything. Okay. Full carnivore. And my son, he's living with me only 1 week over 2 because he's with 1 week with his dad, where he's eating crappy food, junk food all the time. And when he's with me, he's eating what I will say carnivore-ish. So he's eating the meat first, and then he adds some fruits and a little bit of honey to his diet. But it's mainly carnivore. And even when we go out, if we are having dinner in a steakhouse, he's taking the biggest piece of meat he can, and as a dessert, he eat 1 or 2 French fries.
Yeah,
so
good.
He started eating a pound of very fatty meat.
Yeah,
so he loves it a lot. The big difference between him and I is doing a lot of dairy.
Okay.
We have a really good raw dairy in France, and he's having raw milk and raw cheese. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Well, it's nice that you can actually get raw dairy. It's illegal in Australia, and it's very hard to come by in America.
Yeah. We have local farmers, and it's very good product. And but he's growing, and I think he needs all this as well because his body is expanding and something really funny. When I switched to carnivore and he started eating that much meat, he gained 10 centimeters within 3 months.
Oh, wow. That's huge.
He was always like in the small part of his classmates. And then within 3 months, he grew up like a mushroom, So, it was really pleased. And he's a year in advance at school, and now he's the same height as his classmates. So he's really, really happy.
That's good. And so what age is he now?
He's 10 and a half.
Okay. Wow. So he grew that fast. He's not even in puberty. So it's not even that like he hit like a pubertal growth spurt or something like that. That's really
not yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so, just keep it up, and then he'll grow like a sprout in
for a kid that was supposed to be dairy allergic.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I spoke with a guy who, when he was, I think like 15, he just decided, you know what? I hate vegetables. I don't want to eat these stupid things anymore. And he just like refused. He just held out, and he's just like, I'm not eating it. And so he just went meat. And he's been doing carnivore now for 40 years. And it was just because he just like, nope, I'm not doing this. And so he switched over. He, at 15 years old, he said he was the runt of the class. He was literally the shortest, 100%. He was the shortest guy in all of the whole high school. And he was actually shorter and smaller than most of the girls. And so there's like a picture of him like next to a car, and he's like well underneath the roof of the car, and he's standing next to like some other girls. And he's just like, he looks like a kid. He looks like a child next to these people, next to these teenagers. He went and started just eating meat. And he went from being the shortest guy in class and one of the shortest girls, one shorter than most of the girls in class. And he ended up graduating as the second tallest guy in high school.
Wow.
He ended up becoming 6'6", 2 meters. And so from being, very stunted in his growth, and that was just 3 years. So he went from 15 to 18, so actually quite a lot of his growth would have been quite stunted. Hopefully, a lot of that was caught up with. But could you imagine that if he was at, beginning of his life, eating properly, like the guy would have been, in the NBA, 7'2" or something like that. Yeah. They've been, my father, his father and their brothers, there was 5 of them. They were all pushing 7 feet tall. They were all born at the beginning of the 1900s. And, my father was 6'4". His brothers were like, 6'6", 6'7". They're all very, very tall. And, they, weren't shy of fat back then. They always had, full fat milk and butter and fatty meat and things like that. And then when he was an adult, they started pushing his whole heart disease angle and the predicant angle of just like no fat ever, but also no sugar and no processed garbage. And so we never had processed anything, but we also didn't ever have fat. We had meat. We always had meat. That was the sort of the center of the meal every time, but it was always pretty lean. And, I'm 6'3", but I'm like, the genetics are there. Like I should be 6'6", 6'7", 6'8". If I was like just full carnivore, maybe even taller than that. I feel like I've been robbed. And, so, it's amazing how much of a difference that makes, but it's great that you're already seeing that in your son. It's just in just a few months, he's already grown up that fast.
And I can imagine with puberty and everything. And because he's feeling the difference, he's a very overactive boy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing a lot of sports and everything. And when he's with me eating all this meat, he's able to do all these activities and to calm down. And he's feeling much better than the time he's spending with his dad when he's eating all this junk and he's never able to calm down. So he's seeing the difference already. Mm-hmm. And when I'm speaking to him, he's starting saying, okay, I would like to be able to be carnivore-ish all the time and not only 1 week.
Mm.
But at the moment, he doesn't have enough meat in his dad's place, so he can't. But when he's
just 1 minute.
at the camp. Sure.
Goodness. All right. Sorry about that. My computer almost died. I didn't realize it wasn't plugged in. Sorry about that.
No problem. And when he's at school and with his dad, the week of his dad, he's trying to eat the more meat he can at the canteen. So he really wants to go this way.
Yeah. And is his father supportive of that, or doesn't really? No.
Not at all.
Yeah. Okay.
But no. He's like, not having every single day meat. At least if he could have every day some meat, it's good. But his father has a new wife with kids, and they are sharing like 1 pound of meat. Okay, Malo can eat the pound of meat by itself. So it's not appropriate.
No, that's not enough. And well, I mean, if he just focuses on the sort of the meat and the protein and the fat side of things, sneak some butter, things like that, when no one's looking, and just sort of avoids the other processed garbage, he'll probably do okay. I mean, even if he ate less during that week, if he just wasn't eating, the highly processed carbs and sugar sort of thing, he'd probably be still in very good shape, and especially with just at least 1 week.
And it's really funny to see that how even his way of eating with me changed. At the beginning, I was asking him to eat more meat, and for this, I was giving him cured meat, stuff like this, and he was really enjoying it. And now, when I'm asking, "What do you want to eat?" it's always like a ribeye.
Yeah.
It changed from eggs and bacon, cured meat, to beef only. Most of the time, he's asking for beef. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, the kid has good taste, and and that's good that he's noticing, even as a 10-year-old, that this is making such a big difference in his life and how he feels, because when he gets into, sports and starts going into high school and beyond, like that's going to really, really serve him well. He's going to have a huge advantage over other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Well, Claire, thank you so much for that. That was really wonderful. It was wonderful to hear your story and how you've healed and recovered from this, and how you and your son are both thriving. How do people find you and find your work and follow you?
So everyone can follow me on Instagram. My name is Loli Carney. It's my ID on Instagram. And otherwise, they can just go to the YouTube channel on Beyond the Scale Through Healing. They will find me, and they can reach out to me, and I will be always pleased to help. So don't hesitate to ask me questions and to comment the videos and everything, and I will be here to help.
Great, lovely. Well, I'll put all of that in the show notes, and encourage everyone to go check out your work in your YouTube channel. Well, thank you very much, Claire. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Hey guys, thank you very much for taking the time out to listen to what I had to say. If you like it, then please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel and podcast. And if you're on YouTube, then please hit that little bell and subscribe, and that'll let you know anytime I have a new video out, which should be every week, if not more. And if you could share this with your friends, that would help me get the word out and let me know that you like what I'm doing. Thanks again, guys.